Okay, so I have passed 2 different bar exams, the uniform bar exam, the Florida bar exam, but these are 5 things that I wish I knew before entering this process. On top of passing the bar exam myself, I've worked with many students over the years to help pass the bar exam. My company BarcastAudio does audio outlines, essay attack sheets, everything you possibly need for the bar exam. Check us out over at BarcastAudio.com. The link's down in the description below. So, what are 5 things I wish I knew before I started studying for the bar exam? First and foremost, I wish I knew how doable this process was. At times early in the bar exam process, things can feel overwhelming. They can feel like it's not doable. It's impossible to memorize all this material in time for the exam. But what you have to understand is it's not so much a matter of passing, it's a matter of doing the work. And you need to trust the process. You need to trust that if you are doing the work, that you will pass this exam. Because so much time has been put into so many of these programs, these bar exam programs, so much time has been put into the curriculum of your law school in all likelihood to prepare you for this exam. So if you do the work, if you understand what is being asked of you, and that is about 8 to 10 weeks of concentrated study time and devoted study time, serious, real deal study time, it's going to be a demanding process. And I'll talk about that in another one of the things that I wish I knew. But you have to appreciate what is coming. You have to appreciate what it's going to demand of you. As you get closer to the exam, you're going to have to make more and more sacrifices in terms of your time. And to me, time is the most valuable resource. So I recognize that that is a real sacrifice. But you need to understand that and enter into this process with open eyes. And I want you to recontextualize this. If this is something that you're thinking about and you're thinking, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I have it in me to pass this exam, or you have your doubts, what I find is that most students are either puffers or they're doubters. Puffers are students who think, I was the best student ever. I don't really need to work that hard in this process. And doubters are kind of people who have some concerns as to whether they have what it takes to pass this exam. And both people kind of need to be centered a little bit more, because doubters need to realize that if you do the work, this process is extremely doable. And puffers need to realize, you have to do the work. It's not just going to happen for you. Maybe things that work for you in law school are not going to work for you on the bar exam. You're not getting to maybe on the bar exam. They want an answer. They want you to move through the process analytically, but stuff that worked for you in law school, the puffery, the language that they've worked on law school essays is not going to work in the same way. They don't care about how beautiful of a writer you are. It's a lot more akin to a math word problem where you're showing your work for how you reached a conclusion than it is to a true law school essay where your flowery language may be rewarded. So, what does all of this mean practically? What is the second thing that I wish I knew entering the bar exam process? I wish I knew how much time it takes. So realistically, if you're studying for this bar exam, you're studying for about 8 to 10 weeks, about 40 hours a week, let's say. I wish I understood that this process takes somewhere between 300 to 400 hours to do. You need about 300 to 400 hours of study time. And that number may be more or less depending upon how you're actually spending those hours. Too often I find that students are studying, they go to the library, they talk with their friends for a little bit, they do this, they do that, they watch the lecture, then they go get lunch. And listen, you gotta be a human being for this process. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But you also can't just, you need to make the most of your time. You need to be concentrated during the study time. And I think passive studying and just being like, I was watching stuff on Reddit, I was reading things, and I wasn't really locked in for a couple hours, unless for more than an hour or two. I don't think that works. I think you really need to commit yourself to concentrated periods of study. And even if that means shutting off your phone, shutting off everything for a few hours and then coming back to it. What I used to do, I used to go to the library. I would shut off my phone from 9 to 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Then I turn it back on and go for lunch. Then when I came back from lunch, I would also turn off my phone, and I would have more of a review period where I was refreshing myself on what we watched in the lecture or making something physical with my notes from that day, be it flashcards or a mini outline or something like that. So try to think of how you are using your time, because there is so much time required, and make sure that the study time that we're talking about, 300 to 400 hours, is actually being well spent, because it can easily be wasted away and easily put you in a bad situation where you get deep into the process and you realize, I've been studying for 150 hours, 200 hours, and I haven't really been studying for that period. I haven't done the most with that time. I've been distracted. I haven't really committed the stuff to memory. So be intentional with your 300 to 400 hours. The third thing that I wish I understood was the stress of wasting time, of feeling like you're wasting time. Too often, and I talk to students about this all the time, when you go to the gym, when you try to take care of yourself, you feel like you're wasting time. I don't recommend that you kind of burn yourself out that way. I always tell students, if you are being intentional with your time during the day, and you are somebody who is studying like 9 to 5, 9 to 6, then it's probably fine if you go home and you go to a movie, and if you hang out with your family, if you play video games, whatever it is that unwinds you for that day. You're not a robot here. Nobody expects you to be that. And you can still get this done in a tangible way if you are making the most of those 300 to 400 hours that I talked about before. It doesn't require you to completely give up your life. Now, certainly, as you get closer to the exam, things change a little bit because now all of a sudden you feel this anxiety. But the stresses of like my commute and when I was going to the gym, I constantly felt like I should have been refreshing my memory in some way. And ultimately, that's kind of what led me to start Barcast Audio. If you're somebody who's looking to fill those gaps in your time to make sure you're studying and not wasting your time, check out Barcast Audio. We have all sorts of audio outlines and audio flashcards that help you refresh your memory as you are going through that process, and make sure that you're making the most of your time. I used to go on the treadmill in the afternoon sometimes, and I would just listen to my own recorded audio of flashcards that I made for myself so that I kind of committed this stuff to memory, and it really, really helped come exam day. So check us out at Barcast Audio. The link's down below if you want that. What is the fourth thing that I wish I knew entering the bar exam process? So the fourth thing kind of speaks to what I mentioned before. I wish I knew that this is a marathon and not a sprint, because too often students get into this and they're like, I'm going to study until 10 o'clock at night every night. I'm going to study until 11 o'clock at night. And by the time they hit July, if you're studying for the July bar exam and you've already been studying for a month, they're so burnt out. They cannot possibly study anymore. And you have to remember that you want to be in your best mental condition by the end of July, by the end of the exam season. So don't try to go too hard in the beginning. Try to make a sustainable process early on and work your way up to a really high-level study dominating your time situation. Because when I say don't burn yourself out, be intentional still about your day, but don't feel like you have to be in the library till 10 o'clock if you are making the most of your daytime studying. If you are actually being concentrated and doing that work early throughout the day, then you won't probably feel the need to be there until 10 o'clock, but do yourself a favor. Don't burn yourself out. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're just exhausted mentally by the time exam day comes around, because too often I see students doing that. They try to dive in way too hard. They try to go way too hard early on with the studying, and they are just completely burnt out by the time exam day comes, and they're not at their best. They don't have their sharpest mental mind by the time exam day comes. So don't do that. Understand this is a marathon and not a sprint. Okay, so the final thing I wish I knew before studying for the bar exam was that I wish I knew how important it was to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. The truth is, and the truth that nobody really wants to tell you is, no matter how much you study, no matter how much work you put into this process, no matter how many practice exams you may take, you're never going to feel fully comfortable on exam day. And what you have to prepare for then is that idea of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And looking at an essay question and saying, oh my gosh, I don't know exactly what this is asking. And not panicking and not completely collapsing and crumbling. You need to be able to say, okay, I'm uncomfortable, I get this, but I've been uncomfortable before. I've taken timed essays where I've looked at this before, and I know what I can do. I'm pretty sure this is what actually is being tested here, and I'm just gonna do my best to get the most points out of the hypothetical facts and the rules that I think are being asked here. That's a critical skill with the bar exam, because no matter how much you do, no matter how much the brightest student of all, you're never going to feel fully comfortable. You're never going to walk out of the test like, oh my God, that was so easy. Because that's not what this test is. And if you did feel like that, man, you're a one of one. The reality is, it's better to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. And the way that you get comfortable doing that is by doing practice exams, by doing practice questions, by doing a large volume of multiple choice, by doing timed essay questions under real stringent conditions. Unless you're doing that, you're never going to really put yourself in a position that is going to be the most successful on exam day. I say this all the time to my students, practice how you play, or you play how you practice. So when you're taking a 3-hour essay set of 6 essay questions, you need to recognize, like, I haven't done any timed questions. Maybe that's not the best way for me to practice this. So do exam questions under time conditions, because we practice how we play, and that's the best way to succeed in sports, the best way to succeed in taking an exam like this. That is how I really want. If you take anything away from this, take away that you need to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable, and you need to practice how you play. So do your best to put yourself in the best position possible on exam day. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more of these videos. Be sure to check us out at BarcastAudio.com. If you need audio outlines, full bar exam prep, anything you could need to pass the bar exam, we have it over there for you. Until later, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye now.